Okay. Father, we ask you this evening and this morning, depending upon where people are in this world, we know you are everywhere with us, and help to guide us. We ask that we may find out more about your infinite creation, the nature of your being within each of us, and how we can find more of that being as we travel our spiritual journey back into unity with you. We ask your guidance this morning, and we pray for your love and light, and we thank you for being with us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Okay, so should I start with the questions before wasting any more time? I talk a lot, so. All right, so I believe I had sent the list, so I don't know if Jim is aware about that. So I will start. Our first question is basically got to do with the harvest. And it has sub-questions in it. So mainly it is, what is the current polarization of the planet? Because it seems that maximum people right now want peace. Is the planet going to be fourth density positive or negative according to the configuration as per current scenario? That is part one. Would you like to answer that, Jim?
Well, as far as we know from the raw contact, which was 40 years ago, Ra suggested that the harvest on the planet would be of a positive nature. But that isn't totally the case. I mean, we don't know that for sure at this point, because we know if you look around the world today, there are a lot of wars that are going on, have been going on for a while, and there's still a lot of disharmony. It is very likely that the planet will be positive, that there will be, as Ra said, a small harvest of positive entities, a small harvest of negative, and most would probably have to repeat. That seems to be the case for most of the population that is here now. They've already been on other third density planets and did not make the harvest there. So they needed to choose another third density planet to try again, another 75,000 year cycle. So they chose Earth. And so with the 8 billion souls we have here now, it looks like that still is probably the case, a small harvest, both positive and negative, and most having to repeat. So although Rod did say that one wild card possibility, if we could all polarize positively in one fine, strong moment of inspiration, that the whole planet could go positive. And, you know, something like that could even come from the wars we have going on. People could become so exasperated and disappointed and just wanting to be done with wars. It could just say, oh, let's not do that anymore. So I've thought in the past that maybe some sort of, a great war would be something that would instigate that polarization. Who knows?
Right. In fact, wild card is going to be one of the questions here. And the second part of this is it possible for us to be able to see the entire process of the harvest, and what will it look like? Will the veil of forgetting and the quarantine be lifted?
Austin, you'd like to take that one?
This question is a bit up for interpretation. If we look at Ra's words specifically, a lot of debate has been had about what Ra meant when they described the process of harvest. But in my opinion, and I think our general opinion with LR research, is that it's not necessarily something that we will witness in our lifetimes as they are now, and that the process of harvest takes place primarily after we die, and that it is actually ongoing at this point. Entities are being harvested once they let go of their current bodies. But the process of harvest for individuals takes place like that, and then the process of harvest for planet Earth is a longer transition period. Ra gave that transition period from third to fourth density of being possibly up to 700 years, but that's even, they said that couldn't even be accurate. So it's probably not something that we'll see that process unfold in our lifetime, but it is something that we can see signs of in our lifetime, particularly with the increase of fourth density energies and stuff like that.
Okay, so the next question is, Confederation spoke about planetary changes. While when they answering the questions, if any of y'all, Sonia, Priyanka, have a question, please feel free to ask, okay? So the second question is, Confederation spoke about planetary changes and pole shifts in the Ra contact. Compared to when it was channeled, what are the possibilities, probabilities of things getting worse or being as bad as being told by, or being as bad as was told by the Confederation at that time? And what measures does the Confederation suggest on a personal and planetary level with regards to the harvest?
Gary, would you like to take that one?
Sure. If I can, as you described at the beginning, waste a little bit more time, is it Ginni? Is that how you pronounce it correctly?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And I want to say that it is amazing to be connecting with seekers from India specifically. You all have such a rich cultural and religious background that has prepared you to assimilate the law of one in a way that's not available in the West, I think. I mean, you've been exposed to concepts of reincarnation and the path of enlightenment and transcendence and the multidimensionality of reality and chakras and energy centers and so forth. So this is particularly exciting. So you were you were asking about planetary changes and pole shifts in the raw contact compared to when it was channeled, and what are the probabilities of things getting worse and not being as bad as the Confederation originally predicted. So Austin mentioned how Ra described that the harvest could take place on a time span anywhere from 100 to 700 years, and even that couldn't be accurate. Ra gave such a large time span because they said our peoples are volatile. They said due to the volatilities of your peoples. Volatility, as I understand it, means unpredictability. There is so much sort of a chaotic energy here, and our planet, or the people on our planet, have not come together to choose a direction, and we're scattered all over across the spectrum. So it was unknown. Even Ra has such a breadth of information that's kind of hard to conceive. I mean, they could see every mind on the planet. They could see the past history of every individual. They can see all of humanity's entire history. And even with all that available information, they could not tell exactly what what was going to happen. Could the planet come together in a short time and begin to choose love over fear and unity over separation? Yes, that was possible. But could we stay stuck in our warlike patterns? That was also possible too. Ra did indicate that we are retarding the process, which is an English word which means slowing down the harvest. So it is now 40 years past the Ra contact, and like you know, Ginni, light is increasing on this planet. More and more people are waking up, and there's a positive groundswell of energy and inspiration growing on planet Earth. But the news is also full of continued war and destruction and suffering of people and inequality and slavery and so forth. So it's difficult to say, but my personal sense is that things will get worse before they get better on a planetary scale. There will be likely more harm to our planet, more harm to each other, but there will come a turning point when the planet itself rounds the corner, so to speak, and starts moving in a positive trajectory. But again, Ra could see much more than I could, and even they could not make reliable predictions. So my own predictions are even less reliable. Who knows? Something could happen tomorrow whereby we all come together. And you will get to that in a future question about wild cards. And what measures does the Confederation suggest on a personal planetary level in regards to harvest? Could you clarify that part of the question, Ginni?
So with regards to the harvest, so there is a harvest like I think what Austin spoke about I think Austin took up that question. Personally, when people get harvested, so it's about me, you, all of us, and the harvest of the planet. That's what we meant. Because what I feel is that, like you said, it's been 40 years. And in these 40 years, a lot of changes have happened. A lot of people have woken up. A lot of healers have, you know, come. And the other thing is that a lot of star seeds and, people from the higher dimensions have probably taken birth to help planet Earth.
Mhm.
So I feel I feel that it would go towards the positive, and finally people will wake up and things will turn out to be much better. But that's just a feeling. That's just what I probably want to believe. So that's the reason I wanted to ask that, in case about this harvest happening, um, what measures does the Confederation suggest? So, in case the harvest is happening, what does it suggest that we do to
Ah,
so that it may go towards the positive?
mhm. Yeah, I think I understand better now. Thank you so much.
Well,
And to loop back into your first question and Jim's reply about the future outcome of planet Earth in regards to the harvest, the Confederation is careful about speaking in certainties and saying something will or will not happen, because the future is a result of probable outcomes that are a function of free will operating right now. Nevertheless, they do seem to speak in certainties that planet Earth will polarize positively. At least this planet will transition into a fourth density positive planet, and all those who have learned the lessons of love in this third density experience will be harvestable and will move on to this new Earth that is in the process of being born right now. The birth, they say, is in trouble in a way. It's going very difficultly. It's not a smooth labor, so to speak. So to speak briefly before turning it over to Austin and Jim to see if they have some insight into what can we do to help contribute to a positive harvest in this world. And there's a lot that can be said there, but in essence, know yourself, accept yourself, and become the creator. One thing I love about the Confederation philosophy is their emphasis on how self-work is world work. So the more we work on ourselves, we heal our past, we forgive those who we feel have injured us, we learn to open our hearts and accept everybody, whoever they are, as the creator. The more that we see the creator in ourselves and each other, we're not just creating a better inner experience for us, we are healing the world by healing ourselves. And that's one way to consider that question. I'd be interested in if Austin or Jim had more to offer there.
Yeah, I can make a quick comment before turning it over to Jim. I would just emphasize what Gary said, in the sense that whenever the Confederation talks about something like this, they always emphasize that the personal work is the most important thing, because we can't do anything to help the world until we help ourselves and we heal ourselves. So we are experiencing on a daily basis catalyst that helps us to understand ourselves and helps us to understand where there are blockages between us and our heart, and where we can open our hearts even more. So the most important thing that the Confederation says we can do is just on a day-to-day basis, examine what you experienced in your life and where you experienced catalyst. Where was it difficult for you to share your love? Where do you think you could have done better sharing your love, better communicating? And just make a daily routine at the end of the day to think about that and recall those catalysts and balance them however you can, and meditate on them, and just slowly heal your own, inner trauma, inner wounds, slowly open your heart, and then you will be naturally put into situations that will allow you to shine the love and the light of the creator as you come to know it within yourself. And so I think what Gary said is really the most important thing. But there are other, intentional things we can do too, like gathering as groups like you all do and coming together to discuss these things and to just share with in love. That I think creates a very powerful effect. And like we do something called the Gaia meditation daily, and I'll let Jim talk about that and give any other ideas that he has about your question.
Yes, I think that you both, Gary and Austin, have covered the ground pretty well. Our Gaia meditation is both at 6:30 in the morning and 6:30 in the evening. And during that meditation, we invite everyone who would like to join us and to send love and light to the planet itself and to everyone on the planet that feels any kind of hurt, any anger, anything that keeps them from getting into their open heart to help heal people that are in need of healing. So I think in general, when Ross said that there was love in every moment, we can utilize that fact to send love to the entire planet during our meditations, whether it's Gaia meditation or your own private meditations, and emphasize and enlarge upon that love that is in every moment, so that people may not even be aware that it's coming to them, but subconsciously they would be aware. And at some point, that love can move into the consciousness and become that which helps a person to consciously become a seeker of truth, when before perhaps they were not. They were just going through the daily round of activities and living in a world that, trying to earn money, make a living, have a good family, and be prosperous in one way or another. At some point, though, hopefully people will become aware that they have a spiritual journey that is within them and without them. And that love that is all around us can be a part of that when we send it to them in our meditations.
Wonderful. I really love your answers. Part of what Gary said is that understand that we are the creator. You said something about yourself, accepting yourself as the creator. And Austin spoke about living your day-to-day life in a manner where you accept, understand the catalyst and what is your learning in it. And this is what I have been, believing and thinking. And the other thing is that, yes, in Law of One, Ra has clearly never predicted, and he doesn't believe in, predictions, because he doesn't believe in talking about the future. But if I may add, with your permission, in the Hindu Shastras, although I have not read it, but I know that it's written that Kali Yuga will end and after that Satyug will begin. And that means that the earth and the people will move into fourth density positive. So I'm very positive about it. I don't want to be negative. Why should I be? It's we what we believe if we are the creator. And if we believe positive and we, act accordingly, I'm sure we'll win. Yeah. Okay. That
I
is
would
one.
add
Sure.
real quick that we do continue channeling the Confederation, and they have hinted and indicated in various ways in recent channelings that the positive harvest and Earth being a positive fourth density planet is still kind of the track that we're on.
Yeah, that's one of the next questions, and thank you for answering that. So you spoke, Jim, about the wild card, and that was exactly what our next question is all about. That I think you've already answered that question, actually. If you remember, you spoke.
I think
We can
should
skip
skip
that.
it, and
Yeah.
in place of that,
Next question, Pejat.
Jim or Austin or Gary could answer this. I just wanted to know, because while I was reading Law of One, I started reading it, I think 8 years back. So there was one funny part in that when Ra stated that we will come for the harvest, and this planet will be vacated. So I kind of found it funny. What would be your take on that? I mean, the planet would be vacated. What do you think? What's your take on that? Or what do you think? What could happen in that scenario?
Well, the planet itself, our Mother Earth, is a conscious entity. And Ross suggested that it was moving into fourth density and would very likely be a fourth density planet. So that the population of the Earth, however, was mixed between the positive and negative and the various, the orange and the yellow ray energy centers and then the green. So that would tend to retard the harvest. But again, back to that wild card idea, I think it's important to realize that, as Ross said, there are an infinity of choices and possibilities in every moment. And that might be something that has a little probability of happening, but it is ever possible for it to happen. And as I think you were saying, Ginni, you have a very positive outlook on how the Earth can and will be harvested along with her population into the fourth density. So I think it's a good idea to keep a positive outlook, realizing there are other possibilities.
Yes, of course.
To move into our own center of being, which we share with everybody else on the planet. We all have the creator within us, the planet does as well. And to emphasize that possibility and to meditate on the possibility that it could be manifested in our third and into fourth density experiences. I think this planet is so amazing to me because it has so many different kinds of people with different beliefs that all come together in the feeling, in the mystical sense that there is a creator within us all, and that we can all travel that path back into unity. So I think, if not on the conscious level, on the subconscious level, everybody is aware of that. And what has to happen is that has to be brought to the conscious level of realization and experience. And I'm also an optimist. I feel that it is very possible for this to happen, perhaps in an instant, or perhaps it'll take the 700 years.
Yeah.
Either way, I think there is very good chances that we can see a positive harvest. And I think that's what we're all working for. And the fact that we have that within our own minds and hearts, in our spirits, is something that we can share with others just by the way we live our lives and the people we meet. Something as simple as a smile on the street, or helping somebody, pick up some groceries they dropped at the grocery store and help them get it back into their cart. Any little thing that we can do, can be magnified and be an example that can move into everyone's heart, whether consciously or subconsciously.
Right. So, Jim, you spoke about the Gaia meditation morning and evening. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Is it possible that all of us could also join that? I mean, is there
Yes.
any links or that you can share, or how do we?
Gary and Austin might know more about the links. Are there links? You're shaking your head yes, Austin.
Yeah, I was waiting for Gary to chime in, but yes, if you go to our website, llresearch.org, it's very easy to find the Gaia meditation information. You just click on connect at the top of the page, and that will then take you to a page where if you scroll down, there's a section for Gaia meditation, and that will give you all of the information about what the Gaia meditation is, including instructions from Kuo, the Confederation entity that we channel, about exactly what to visualize and how to visualize it, and then there's the times on there. It's a 6:30 Eastern Standard Time, and you can synchronize with anybody else, or you can just do it whenever you want to do it. And if you just follow those instructions, those are what Kuo gave us to help try to bring healing to Gaia and lighten the planetary vibration.
All right,
And
Vaishali. Yeah, sorry.
I was
Please
going to tell
continue.
you the origination of the Gaia meditation was back in 2001, just previous to the World Trade Centers being destroyed. We had a friend of ours who was in communication with Gaia, and he felt that there was a problem because Gaia had stopped communicating with him. So he asked, this was 3 weeks before the World Trade Center went down, if we could do some praying and help Mother Earth through the difficult times. And so that's where the Gaia meditation came from.
Oh, wow. Okay. I think Vaishali has a question. Yes, Vaishali.
I just wanted to say that Gaia meditation I saw from LL Research, and we have been shared, and I have been did it. It's amazing. And yeah, I talked to Mr. Jim one time, and there is a 6:30 we do the meditation. We also do that. Luckily, here the Rajivji, he always handle that. In the morning, Bharatji, he always handle that. So we always do it kind of same time. That's lucky. That's what I just want to say.
So basically, in India also every morning, at somewhere around 6:30,
5:30.
Mr. Bharat Lakhani and Mr. Rajiv Reddy here, they organize this meditation, and a lot of people they just join in, and
A hemisync.
they we are actually doing hemisyncs. So that's the only thing that we have right now. So we are going to definitely use your Gaia meditation, and we would try to sync up with your timeline. But if that doesn't happen, then whatever timeline that we have, we are going to utilize that. But yes, Gaia needs healing. That would, surely be done from our end, and we would try to do that.
Yeah, so I have been doing some Mother Earth healing meditations on my channel collectively. But basically, why I asked you this, that there was already a question that we were going to ask you. Is it possible to arrange a law of squares meditation at a larger scale where all the students or readers of Law of One can attend it online?
Austin or Gary, would you like to take that? You're the online specialists.
How about you, Gary?
So law of squares, and it is an interesting idea, Ginni. I think even without intending to get together to hold a law of one squares meditation, that is going to happen as a function of the physics of reality, or the metaphysics of reality, I guess you could say, just by working cooperatively in shared intention and shared mission. The law of squares says that the energy of the first person is doubled by the energy of the second person. And the energy of the first two people are doubled by the energy of the third person. And on it goes until you have this exponentially skyrocketing energy upward. However, I do have to wonder if the law of one squares can be enhanced in any way if you make it more intentional. But to your question, are you asking, is LL Research capable of inviting a global meditation among the readership? Certainly.
Yeah.
We could send out an invitation via our social media to the tiny percentage of planet Earth that tunes into the Law of One and LL Research, and say, on Saturday at 5 p.m. this time, we are going to get together and meditate for the purpose of supporting the positive harvest on planet Earth.
Thank you so much. So the reason we asked you this question is because Pa here, PA, he told us about Law of Squares, and we did a couple of meditations where about 100 people must have joined. And of course, 100 people joined live on YouTube, but many more did it after that. But apparently, what I have been told by Pa is the more you do it collectively at the same time, the more stronger it is. Of course, collective prayers is strong. So that is the reason we wanted to, of course, you're capable, but we wanted to request if you would do that so that all the Law of One crowd all over the world can join together. And it could easily be your Gaia meditation or whatever meditation that you feel best. But that was something that we had in mind whenever it suits you. And
this Q&A was just supposed to be discussion. We were not supposed to be given homework.
No, it's not homework. It's a request. It was a question if you would do that.
I agree with that too, actually.
So,
I agree with that too.
So Ginni ma'am, why don't we, allow our, we have other team members also here. So let's start from, Sonia here on the right. The next question, Sonia, you can take. Another one, if Rajiv you want to take, Priyanka you want to take, Bharatji you want to take,
sure.
Vaishali you want to take. So go ahead, guys.
Sonia, 4A.
Yes. So I want to ask, what is the number of calling in order to apply the law of squares so that Earth may move into the fourth density positive?
Well, I don't have any idea as to what number would be necessary. There are 8 billion souls on the earth. Um, I think that every person that has the will and the dedication to seek and serve the one creator and everyone else that they meet has a way of helping that square function to function. And Austin, do you have any idea about numbers, or do you have any idea about concepts you want to share other than, share your love and light with everybody you meet? Do it every day.
It's hard to say anything specifically because Ra didn't exactly say how the calling would then precipitate something like a shift to fourth density. They talked about the calling in terms of the Confederation responding to the calling to offer their aid, but there is also just that exponential building of the love and the light from the calling that obviously is going to influence the planet in some way. In terms of the specific number, it's hard to say, but there are other theories and philosophies that talk about certain ratios of people who enter a new consciousness that then trickles out into the rest of the population. And they have different numbers. Sometimes they say 10%, sometimes it's like 15%. I know there's one system of thought called integral theory that talks about stages of consciousness as it unfolds in cultures. And they have identified that once people reach, I think it is about 12% of a certain consciousness, the consciousness then is a lot more accessible to the rest of the population. And so there are ideas that kind of correlate to a critical mass that's similar to the law of squares like that, but it's hard to be specific with numbers. You see Gary has his hand up.
Well, Austin, oh, Gary wants to speak. Okay. I mean, I just want to say one thing. Based on my calculation, because I'm more of a mathematical and analytical kind of person also. So I did a calculation and I came to a number which is 1% of the whole population of this planet. If at the same time, if they ask anything, but that one thing or two thing or three things has to be asked together, then it impacts the whole planet, then all the people of this planet. I mean, that's my number which I calculated through law of squares. Anyways, Gary, please carry on.
I wanted to add a few quick points, and that's that one, Ginni, I didn't get to follow up in reply to your previous question. I was just being silly about the homework. In response, yes, we can absolutely do something like that, and let's follow up over email and try to coordinate something that would be good for North American time and the Indian subcontinent time. That might work there. And then about this law of squares question, what PA was describing in terms of his calculation of 1% and what Austin was describing is something called critical mass, which you all may be familiar with as a concept. And that suggests that when a critical mass of concentration on one idea or one understanding is reached, then a threshold is crossed, and then that understanding becomes more available to the whole, to the collective. And that's happened many times in history. Progress has happened because a certain minimum number of people have become aware of a new idea or a new way forward, and then it becomes more available to the whole. And then finally, my final point regarding the law of squares is that there is another factor in that mathematical formula that we haven't discussed in this call, but that Ra describes. And they say the law of squares does exponentially amplify and empower a calling when people are working together, but that calling must be integrated with the resistance of those who would be opposed to the call. And on this planet, there are a lot of people who would actively be in resistance to a positive transformation of planet Earth. And because this is a creation of free will, their free will factors into the formula as well. And how that formula operates exactly, I'm not a mathematician. I can only repeat what the Confederation has described in terms of, in very layman terms. But that's it for me. Thanks.
So it, expands exponentially. Then if you divide the whole number, whatever number you're getting, divided by 8 billion, you'll get your exact number. I mean, that's how I calculated it.
Okay, awesome.
Can you explain that resistance bit that you just said, spoke about, Gary? I didn't quite understand. You said that when we apply the law of squares, we have to. I didn't quite get that about the resistance, number of people who would resist.
So, Austin or Jim, if you have more to enhance what I'm saying, please feel free after I stumble through this. Let's look at a specific scenario of what Ra calls calling. They say that those in third density can emit a call, which means a request for help in a certain way. That call can certainly be vocalized in an explicit and specific way. Please help me heal from this particular illness.
Right.
Or a call can just be emitted by the need of the self. So if, say, around the planet, there's a need for enlightening information about the nature of reality, and it's just being emanated, then the law of squares seems to be able to work to empower that calling, and it sort of broadcasts outward. And it's that calling that gives the Confederation the ability to be here and be of service, because they must honor the free will of those in third density. And they can only work within the limitations of free will. If there is no calling on planet Earth, they can't just show up and say, hey, everybody, we have this great information for you. They can only be of service in proportion to the calling. Ra says specifically that it's lucky, or rather they are fortunate, that the law of squares is in operation because it creates a window for them to be here. But they can't respond to the calling, they can't respond to the calling by just landing on the planet Earth and revealing the infinite nature of the universe to everybody on the planet, because there is resistance. There would be resistance. There are many people who are deep in the dream of third density who aren't ready, who don't want that information, who are still working through other issues. So that's my rough answer for how the resistance is factored in. The Confederation must consider that resistance in terms of determining how they are of service. And there's other scenarios where that law of squares and the integrated resistance would apply as well.
Right. Now I understand. Thank you. Would you like to add to that, Jim or Austin?
Go ahead, Austin.
I was just going to say the only thing I would add is, if we're considering all the variables that go into this calculation, I believe there was another part that Ra considered, and that is the purity of the calling. Any individual might not be calling as strongly or as purely as any others, and so one person might not be equal to another person in terms of how they factor into the equation. So take all those things, and then you kind of have this very difficult mathematical problem to figure out any specific number, but the calling is still very powerful despite the resistance and the idea of distortion and purity.
Thank you. Okay. Rajiv, you raised your hand. Would you like to say something?
Yes, Ginni ma'am. Thank you. So thanks, Jim and team, for joining us. It was, I have no words to explain my feelings, because we have been reading all your, notes and guidelines in lawofone. So thanks for all the guidance provided so far. My question is that what is meaning of 51% service to others status? Because lawofone recommend that you at least you should have 51% service to others, capability in your at your consciousness level. So can you please guide us on that? Like, what is the what is that 51% status, and then and how we'll make sure that we are at that level.
I really could. There was some feedback that I couldn't understand exactly what you were saying.
So I'll repeat that for you. So this is the question that we get to hear from a lot of people. So they want to know. I mean, how do you calculate this in your daily life? This 51%, 49. So technically, like Buddha also said, choose the middle path. Choose the middle path. So technically, we try to compare it with that. But in terms of living a daily life, going through your daily chores. So how do you balance your life with 51%, 49, like 49 self, 51 others? How do you balance that?
Okay, thank you. I understand. I'll start off with a quote from Carla. She said, "You can't take your own spiritual temperature." I think all you can do is intend to be of service to others. And with that intention set, then you just do your best to share the love and the light as you perceive it with other people as the opportunity comes to you. And you don't know how it's really going to be received, but that's not the important thing. The important thing for you as an individual and for the planet too is you intend to be of service. You intend to share love and light. You intend to see the Creator in everyone around you. And this intention gives you a greater opportunity of actually succeeding. Because if you don't intend, then you're probably not going to succeed. So that would be my answer. Make an intention, set it every day. Set it in the first meditation of the day or when you first wake up. Whatever your ritual is, set that intention to be of service to others and make that be the lens through which you live your life and you see others about you.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Ginni ma'am, I have two more questions, please.
Rajiv, एक minute. यहाँ पर बहुत सारे, there are a lot of questions here that we have shortlisted. Let me just finish that, then you can ask.
Ginni ma'am, I would rather suggest we have people here. Let them ask the questions because they're definitely going to ask the questions, which are usually the questions of the people. So
एक
I
minute.
think
ये जो
that
51%, when he spoke about the 51%, in continuation to that, actually, I was going to ask something and now I forgot. Okay. Because a lot of people, what was the question? Damn, forget it. Okay. Continue, Rajiv.
Anyways,
Yeah. So
Rajiv,
my next-
Rajiv, you can come back again. In the meanwhile, Priyanka has raised her hand. Priyanka, you can please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for that. So it's just continuing with what Rajiv asked. We keep wondering that how to make the grade. So a lot of times we, hear things about you need to graduate or like the planet has already graduated to fourth density, but how do we make our graduation? So it just came with him talking about the 51%. So that's my first question. And then I have another question, but it's a different topic.
You want to try that?
That's okay. That's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the next question is about pole shift. So a lot of people talk about there are these books also or declassified documents that have come out of US, the Information Act and all. So where there's this book called Adam and Eve, and they talk about pole shift and how it's a natural process. So I kind of in my mind and even like we as a group had sort of equated it with the change or the birthing of new density in a planet. So what are your views about it? And when Gary mentioned about it being a difficult birthing, so I was also having that in my mind. So, there are a lot of people talking about, honestly speaking, all over the world in different groups, they think about safe spaces, going, traveling. So are you taking any of those steps? Do we need to worry about that? So yeah, just that question.
Austin?
I nominate Gary.
Yeah, there's two big questions, and the second one is really an age-old question and older than the 51% question. I would like to respond to the 51% question you asked, like how do we make the grade? How do we harvest? And I want to tell you about this great new app that we have at LL Research. For only $9.99, it will measure your polarity and tell you if you've made the grade, and that's really all you need to do. I'm kidding. There is the numbers that Ra uses. They say to graduate into the negative harvest, one needs to be 95% service of self. And for the positive, as we've discussed, 51% service of self. And those are numbers that make sense to the Confederation because they can see our violet ray energy signature. They can see by what percentage our consciousness has been magnetized toward one pole or the other in its purity. And so those specific numbers aren't too relevant to our third density experience. None of us on this call can know exactly what our number is, but the 51% is interesting because it's just 1% over 50. So what does that mean? Jim was speaking to this already. And I take it to mean that in just over half of one's thoughts, intentions, conscious experience, there is a lack of selfishness. There is a basic concern for the welfare of other people. There is a taking into account of the free will of other people. There is a lack of manipulating of other people and exploiting other people for self-gain, etc. And to me, that just looks like basic kindness, basic compassion. The more that we purify our heart and the more we dedicate ourselves to service, I think that vibrational percentage increases. But the second half to that question that you asked regarding how do we make the grade, I think that could also be a sort of pitfall to be focused on graduation. Certainly the goal of life in this creation is evolution. We want to move upward. We want to accelerate our journey to the creator through the third density, through the fourth density. There's a reaching upward to be closer, to know more, to understand ourselves better. And there's a trajectory there. But we want to be of service for the sake of being of service. We want to help others because we love others. We want to be focused on this moment and all the opportunities that exist right here. And as a byproduct, we will be evolving so that we will make the grade. But we can also get caught in some future outcome where we're just doing service now so that we can move into this happier fourth density experience. So I'll now turn it over to Austin. Thank you for the great question.
Yeah, thank you. Talking about the second question regarding pole shifts, if I understand the question correctly, you were mentioning that it's known, for geologists, we know that the pole has shifted in the past. It's something that happens every once in a while. It probably relates to the cycles that our planet goes through in terms of densities and stuff like that. And I think the heart of your question was, how do we relate to this idea that there might be an impending pole shift, and how we can maybe even protect ourselves in that regard? And my basic personal orientation that I think Jim and Gary and the rest of us probably share is that while we are always aware that something like that is possible, or any kind of massively destructive thing interrupts our society in some way, I trust that, because of the way that the creator works, that I will be where I need to be in order to be of best service to others, so long as I believe and have faith in the path that I'm on, and just allow myself to be moved by that faith in the creator. And so we don't particularly feel a need to seek out a safe area or protection in terms of any kind of potential destruction. In channeling and in this kind of culture, that's new age culture kind of, there's always predictions of some destruction and some kind of doom. And ever since I've been a part of this community and this culture. I've seen it in so many ways, and there's predictions, they come and they go, and people get kind of whipped up into a fear and a frenzy about how can we protect ourselves through the impending doom. And I see a lot of energy that just goes into that preparation, when I think the better way to relate to it is to trust that even if something bad does happen, so long as we are true to ourselves and true to our path, will be guided to where we need to be. And it might be unpleasant, because, you know, something like a massive pole shift that disrupts all of society would be very difficult to go through. But then we have our job to do, service to others, figure out how we can, in that moment, serve the people that are around us, serve the environment that's around us, and do our best to lighten the planetary vibration, no matter the circumstances, whether they're pleasant or unpleasant.
Wonderful. I love that answer.
Yeah, thank you. I was actually hoping to hear something similar, and that gives me a lot of peace and wonderful. Thank you.
You
Thank you.
mentioned something about recent channelings, I believe you had spoken about. Has the Confederation said anything in the recent channelings that you would like to share that may help the masses, help everyone to understand better, or what needs to be done, etc.?
It's a very interesting question. I have something in mind. I can go first if Gary and Jim want to think about their answers. One thing that I always find very interesting is we have a lot of focus on the seeming divisions in society. It seems like things are getting more tense and more difficult, and people are more angry and ready to fight in this sort of culture war, and that especially it's exacerbated by the internet and social media and things like that. And the Confederation has shared that this is actually a process of fourth density unfolding, where they are distortions within our society of our mass sort of unconscious mind being highlighted, so that it's sort of a catalyst for our entire population in order to process these things that have always been underlying and need to be exacerbated in order for us to address them fully, to let fourth density be born. So the circumstances and the situation feel a lot more intense, and it is a lot more intense. And there are really important, difficult things that are popping up in our society that we have to grapple with. And it's easy to look at all of that and think that things are just getting worse, and they're getting worse. But if the Confederation is right, this is part of a process where it's highlighting what we need to deal with, so that we can get to the thing that's not worse, so that we can process it and find the love that it's attempting to show us in all of that difficulty.
Wow. Wonderful. Hanji Pa, you want to say something, Pa? You're muted.
No, I just said, what a wonderful answer that was.
Yeah. Gary, Jim, anything?
Well, I think that one thing that has come across in the Confederation channelings for a long time is that we each have pre-incarnative choices that we make, that are lessons that we want to learn, and that when we go through our daily round of activities, those lessons will come to us in one way or another that we will be able to perceive, because our unconscious mind biases our conscious perception of our lessons. So if we simply trust that we have answers within us that are in harmony with the Creator's unity of the creation, and use our own intuition, if nothing else, to determine how we want to respond to the catalyst, and with a bias set towards loving those around us and trusting that what is happening because it needs to be, and that we can see it in the most positive way by trusting our own pre-incarnative choices, our intuition, and focusing upon our heart and opening our heart in love and understanding, because that's the way that we travel our own spiritual journey most effectively, and the way that we are most service to those around us, so that we share that love and light with everybody that we meet. So I think basically the Confederation is suggesting trust our own hearts, trust our pre-indicative choices, and trust that all is well and all will be well.
Okay, great. Yes, Gary.
If there's a moment, if I may add a short piece, if not, you can.
No, please
move on.
continue.
I appreciate Jim and Austin's answers, and I want to add a piece to Austin's, and that's about the subjective sense that we have of the increasing intensity of life on Earth and the increasing temperature, the heat, almost like there's a fever that's building. And there are identifiable reasons for that on an outer level that don't require metaphysics. For instance, the internet and the way we can all communicate and the way that we're exposed to one another, increasing population density, climate change and the pressures that puts on the planet, wealth inequality, and politics and so forth. But there is an underlying metaphysical component that connects to what Austin was saying. And if you think about fourth density and think about what one of the chief characteristics of the next stage of evolution is, and that's transparency. To such a radical degree that your thoughts aren't necessarily private anymore. You are aware of the thoughts, the feelings, and the experiences and the past history of everybody on your planet, and they are aware of yours. And there's no hiding anymore. You're seen completely and you're loved completely. I think that's why Ra calls the fourth density the density of love or understanding. Understanding in that context is kind of synonymous with love, because when you can see the totality of somebody and who they are, you see their light and their dark, and you embrace them wholly. There's no judgment anymore. So as the birthing process takes us incrementally closer to fourth density, we start feeling that transparency here in third density. And I think that is a driving energy underlying this intensity and this heat that is increasing, because like as Austin was describing, what was hidden is now coming up to the surface, both on an individual level within the self. The self is having to face the self more squarely, and the collective is having to face itself too. And all this trauma that's embedded in our consciousness, all this past pain, all of our hypocrisies and our contradictions and so forth, it's all coming up and to the top of the stew, and we're having to face it all. And a lot of the planet Earth isn't ready to face it, I think, and that's contributing to the chaos. But that's all I wanted to add. Thanks for the extra time.
You're so right. Yeah. Yes. Nobody wants to face it, actually. Everybody who wants to do service to others is surrounded by everyone else who wants to be a service to self. So Catalyst, when he spoke about it, that's the one thing that came to my mind. That's one thing everybody in the group is has been experiencing. Any other question, anyone? Rajiv, you had something, right? You're muted, Rajiv.
Yeah, sorry. So I was just asking that, is veil of forgetting a natural process, or it's a trap? So there are conflicting theories available on net. So I just wanted more clarity on that, Jim and team.
Well, the veil of forgetting is something that was determined and implemented a great portion of time ago, when it was discovered that in the beginning, third density entities did not see any difference between themselves and the creator. They all felt they were the creator. And this was a way of being that was very natural. And it had one drawback, though. If you are the creator and you know you are the creator and everybody else is the creator, there's really no reason to make any choices in response to fear or love. Everything's just fine the way it is. So entities at that time took many, many cycles of third density to finally make the fourth density. They knew that was the purpose, but they didn't see any reason to do it because everything was just fine. So at that point, it was decided by the various logoi of the area of that original center of creation that if you put a veil of forgetting between the conscious and subconscious minds, then that subconscious mind would still have that knowledge, but the conscious mind that lives the third density experience would not have it, but it would have this feeling that something was in need of repair, of movement, of attention. So they discovered paradoxically that when you cut off the conscious mind's awareness being the creator, that subconscious feeling caused them to polarize their consciousness much more effectively, as they discovered a spiritual path seemed to give them that feeling of becoming back into unity with the creation, with the creator, with each other, on both a subconscious and more on a conscious level. So that allowed the graduation into the fourth density to occur much more rapidly and effectively, and gave the creator more ways of knowing itself, because before the veil, everyone knew they were the creator, and the creator wasn't getting much activity out of choices and action and thoughts and deeds. So that's basically why the veil of forgetting was installed, and how it is a paradoxical way of increasing the chances of polarizing positively and making the harvest.
Okay, so like our next incarnation, is it possible that we incarnate on a different planet, or we are kind of trapped on this Earth planet and we keep on reincarnating again and again, and then veil of forgetting is applied, and and it's an unending chain of reincarnations. That's what I wanted to.
Austin, you want to try that one?
Yeah, I was asking whether we have an unended
Oh,
infinite.
that's okay. That's okay. Rajiv, they've heard the question. I think Austin was about to give the answer.
Okay.
Yeah, to the extent that I understand the question, it's about like the cycle of reincarnation, and if it's possible to sort of incarnate somewhere else or seize the cycle of reincarnation. And it depends on where you are in your spiritual journey. A lot of seekers of the Law of One believe that they are wanderers who have come to incarnate on planet Earth in order to aid the planet by stepping down from their density and incarnating into third density to bring the love and the light of their density here. And some of them will continue to reincarnate here or on other third density planets because that's the service they've chosen for a certain amount of time. Third density entities will continue to reincarnate in some third density form if they haven't successfully polarized to make the harvest. Planet Earth supposedly pretty soon will not be available for reincarnating in third density because we will be a fourth density positive planet. And once we do make that polarize and make harvest and are able to reincarnate in higher densities, then that veil of forgetting will not be there anymore. It's an artifact of third density only, and we will have a lot more understanding while in our incarnation about the incarnational processes and why we're doing it, what we're doing. And it will, I think in third density, the process might seem like a cycle that we're kind of trapped in that we have to go through. But once the veil is lifted, we have a much greater picture of the process that's at play and why we are doing it. And the fundamental aspect of creation, according to Ra, is free will. So at any moment, if any entity wanted to not incarnate ever, they could. But there's a reason that once we leave this plane of the veiled existence and enter the time space of non-veiled existence, we get there and then we realize that it is something that we want to do, is reincarnate in order to continue our path of evolution, because we have to reincarnate in order to get there. But that cycle of reincarnation is something that is part of the spiritual journey that ultimately at the very end leads us back to unity with the creator. And that is sort of the purpose of everything that we're doing, is that ultimate path back home to unity and to the creator.
Thank you so much. Now that you speak about wanderers, the wanderers and star seeds and bridges, so these words have come up in Law of One, and Pa has explained to us, and I see that pillow behind you, Gary, that says wanderer. So when Law of One was channeled, the number of wanderers that Ra mentioned, I'm sure by now it must have increased. Would you like to talk about wanderers, star seeds, indigo children, bridges, or just in brief, if you wish?
Gary?
Anyone? Yeah.
Yeah, it can. Yeah, so in brief, I think you're kind of looking for sort of a definition, or what is a wanderer?
No, I want to know the difference between like
what's basically your understanding of being a wanderer, or then we have a concept called starseed and wanderer. We consider it the same.
basically
And
the
then we have
difference between them and the bridges. And so we've heard a lot of these words, but what is the difference between them?
Yeah, it's different systems, different sources will have different words for what may be the same concept and what may be different concepts. And we'll get at LL Research, people will write in and say, well, the Seth material, if you're aware of the Seth, says this, but the law of one says this. So which one is true? And it can be a challenge to reconcile different perspectives and different philosophies. But to the extent, and it depends on who's using the word starseed, and do they posit a system of evolution of 7 densities in an octave, whereby higher densities in response to the call of service can incarnate as a 3rd density entity and so forth. So one would have to know what the context of these different terms is, but insofar as I understand it, they can be interchangeable. A starseed can be used to describe a wanderer. In fact, the word wanderer, I think, Jim, does wanderer, that term that comes from George Hunt Williamson's book, to describe those from higher densities who incarnate in. And then the Confederation just used that word, like they have used various Sanskrit words, for instance, to describe the energy centers. They're trying to work with our language. Is that true, Jim?
I believe it is. And then Brad Steiger is the one that came up with starseed.
Okay.
About
Yeah.
Bridges.
I'm not familiar with
bridges. I mean, in George
Austin?
Hunt Williamson, there are wanderers, but in order to support the wanderers, Confederation has, other people who basically serve as the bridge to support the wanderer in order to execute a particular action in this particular density.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't think we've encountered that term specifically before. And you guys all missed my really good joke, because Austin's last name is Bridges. Yeah, as any activity on the planet, there is lots of unseen help behind the scenes for us, for wanderers, and so forth. So I'm sure there's a whole infrastructure, there's a whole, logistical support team, whether they're bridges or so forth, who help wanderers.
Yeah, as when Don asked Ra about wanderers, they gave a really interesting answer. And they said, imagine, if you will, the sands of your shores, as countless as the grains of sand are the sources of intelligent infinity. And I'm not sure why they said that in terms of why Don asked where they come from. Who are the wanderers? Where do they come from? But the image I get from that is that, wanderers are one type of entity, but there's like an infinite possibility of the types of entities that come from infinite, planets, and who knows what kinds of entities can exist in this infinite universe. So wanderers are just a primary type of service that the Confederation does to help planet Earth in the calling.
Wow. Okay. Finally, I got an answer to that. Do we have?
There is. I don't know whether we have time or not, but there is only one question that I want to ask. It is not there in the list. So this happened multiple times. In fact, it keeps on happening. Whenever we as a team, or just reading the law of one, people at their own places, I'm trying to deliver it, or maybe Ginni ji is trying to deliver it. We have crafts in the sky surrounding us. So what? I mean, when you guys were channeling, did you also go through with this?
What is it you have in the sky?
Crafts.
Crafts.
The light crafts.
Well, back when Don first started the channeling process in about 62, he was aware that there was a craft outside. And so he was told there was a craft outside by the channel. So he went outside and looked, and there was. Now, to my knowledge, that's the only time that's ever happened. There have been other signals that have been given throughout the years that are a sign of you're on the right path, or keep doing what you're doing. And for us, for Don and Carl and me, it was seeing a hawk. And that's something that's, Carla calls it a totem animal. And that's something that's remained for me as do what you do, because that is the thing to do after I see a hawk.
Oh, wow. Wonderful.
So
Do we
there is
have?
one last request that I have on behalf of all of our team. If you could, in any of your channeling, can ask Confederation. I know they are not going to give us anything for the future or anything that could change our path. So just ask them simply, we as the children of the Father, of our one infinite creator, are trying our best to deliver our job. And if our brothers and all the infinity, we know that they're watching us. So if in any case we stumble upon anywhere, so we would need their help. And in any case or in any way, if they could guide us, that would be really great.
Want to take that one, Gary? Or Austin?
And I think he's requesting us to ask this during a channeling. And if you email us that, and we will put it on our list of questions to ask and make sure that it gets asked.
Sure, we will.
So maybe the last question that is here, which we've not really had the time to ask, maybe,
Vaishali can ask.
do we have the time?
Sure. How about one more question?
All right. So Vaishali, would you like to ask that, or Sonia? The last question about the blue beam and Hitler.
Yes, yes. So the question is, we are aware of the project Bluebeam, and we believe it is a part of the Great Deception. What are the Confederation's take on this?
Austin?
I nominate Austin.
2-1 vote here.
I did a search for Project Bluebeam on all of our archives, and it has unfortunately never been addressed directly by the Confederation. So I don't think that we have anything good to reveal about that, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
No problem. Thank you so much.
All right. And somebody requested a question that Hitler, being from the 6th density positive, he came to Earth and he, did all these service to self, karma, and, killing people and all that. So is it really possible for someone to come from the 6th density positive to Earth and behave like this? And what happened to him after that? I mean, what happened to his soul? And where do you think he would be now? In case you would like to answer that question, if at all.
Where did the information come from about his source is 6th density positive? That's not from the raw contact.
I don't know.
We have one more. I'm so sorry to interfere. We had it, one more guest was going to invited, but he's not here. So unfortunately, we asking for behalf of him, and that this question, he was saying this is from Law of One. So we were just,
yeah, that's what he said.
Yes.
That's
It
what
may
he
have been a
said.
misunderstanding. Ron never said Hitler was from 6th density positive. They did talk about Hitler, but didn't say that he was from 6th density positive.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think Bharatji was trying to say something.
Hanji Bharatji.
It was not about Hitler. It was about Himmler.
Yes,
he was
yes,
right,
Himmler.
He was right hand Hitler.
By yourself.
And Ra mentioned in 35 sessions, 35.16 questions.
Praveenji asked me about Hitler. He didn't ask me about Himmler.
Actually, I'm so sorry, Ginni ma'am. He did say Himmler. He also sent me that question. I'm sorry to interfere. So that was from,
anyway.
yes. Yes.
Okay.
I'm so sorry for that. We had one more guest was coming today,
He was
but he's
supposed to
traveling.
join actually
Yes. Sorry about that.
from Germany, and he is traveling,
This
so
is
he
a simple
was able to.
question. This is a simple question. गिनी
Yes.
मैम आप इसको ट्रांसलेट कर सकते हैं. If ये फिक्स डेंसिटी के लिए क्या पॉसिबल है कि फिक्स डेंसिटी से कोई इंकारनेशन यहाँ पर हो थर्ड डेंसिटी में और वो अपने कैटलिस्ट की वजह से इतना फंस जाए कि वो नेगेटिव साइड चला जाए.
यही
ये
तो सवाल पूछा है ना.
नहीं
This is
मतलब किसी
exactly
एक
what the question is. So what he's asking is that, is it possible for any 6 density positive to come to Earth, and the catalysts are so tough that he turns into a service to self person? Is that a possibility?
Well, as far as we know, that's never been discussed. In regards to Himmler, Ross suggested that he asked if Himmler would ever get information or try to get information from his higher self, which would be in the 6th density. And Ross suggested that that was not likely because Himmler, being negatively oriented, would depend only on his own choices to polarize himself. And as far as Hitler, he, though was a very negative type of person, he felt he was doing something helpful for the planet, but he eventually descended in what would be called a dream state, so that he was no longer really aware of his conscious choices and the nature of the reality. So he had to go to the inner planes for healing. And during the raw contact, he was still there. I don't know where he is now, but healing may take a good portion of time. So that's the best I can say.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
I've got a question for you all before we go.
Sure, definitely.
I'm
I have
interested.
one question.
How did I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead.
How did you all meet? You said that there's over 300 of you. How did you find one another?
Yeah. So actually, what okay. So actually, what happened is somebody told me to help a person who wanted to expose the pandemic and the new world order and everything, and that person's channel was banned. That's a doctor in Aurangabad. So a child in Gujarat, a child about 13, 14, he told me that I've been listening to him. He's got some wonderful information and you should help him out. So I said, okay, why not? So I knew that it was a controversial subject. So I created a new channel, and fortunately that video had about 10 lakh or more views, and YouTube wanted to ban it. They banned it once, and we kept putting it up again and again on another channels. I kept creating new channels and doing more videos. Now, one of those videos is what Pa saw, and he wanted to share Law of One and spread Law of One. And he tried to contact me to read it or something. I don't even remember. And I was being bombarded by people to do their interviews. And I'm like, okay, another one. And how many, I mean, messages, calls. That period, I was really being bombarded. So I didn't really take interest. After a month or so, he sent me this expedition to watch the crafts and everything poster, and he sent me the Saucer Speak. When I read the first page of Saucer Speak, I was like, okay, I want to know more about this. And he realized that this woman is, because what had happened is when I spoke to Dr. Vilas Jagdale, and he told me that about, all these Illuminatis and everything. So I said, fine, but where did all this begin? And there was another one, Anurag Sharma, who told me, oh, I saw some videos on YouTube, and there were some aliens who came down, and they wanted to take over Earth. Okay, now it comes to aliens. So, okay, so that is when Pa decided to get in touch with me. Now, he told me, no, I want you to read and know about this. I said, wait, this is too interesting for just me to read it. So quietly, while I was talking to him, I went on live. He wasn't aware. I went on live, I recorded that, and people went crazy about it. The first chapter of Law of One, where he was explaining what it was, people went crazy about it. So he was not expecting it, nor was I. And then suddenly people wanted to know about it. So I started creating a group. It was just 4 or 5 people. Within a week or 10 days, we had about 150, 200 people who were, because we were doing this, I think, almost every day. And Pa and me are like, where are these people raining from? And the group just grew and grew and grew, and it's still growing. We have people, initially we had people from some lady from even Europe, I think Spanish or Danish, I don't know, because her language, I don't know what language that was, or maybe Russian. And initially she was there in our group for about 6, 8 months, then she left. And then we came to know just 2, 3 days back about Pakistan, and then there's people in Canada and America who are Indians and who've been listening to it. So that's how it's been spreading. And the best part is that children have been listening to it. Children, like 5 years, 10 years, they've been listening to Law of One. And when Law of One started, I started doing this healing Mother Earth meditation almost every other day on YouTube Live. And people would throng, like 100, 200 people, and the children would meditate along with us. So that's how we all, then, I mean, I made a group, and that's how it's happened. It's all thanks to
Actually,
Amazing.
she is missing, a couple of points here. I literally used, all the techniques provided by Ra in, Law of One. So one of the technique is never give anything, so easily to somebody. Try to create into a mystery so that they would look for it, because we are children's, right? So I used those techniques, just gave her a little, and then a little, and then a little, and slowly, gradually, it was like courting her. So it was more of like that. And then when she, jumped in, and then my initial take was, book says serving one is serving all. That's all I wanted. I wanted to give it to her. But she played a trick on me, and she went live, and then suddenly, everybody, started jumping in, and from then on, it exploded, basically.
So the
All
thing
these
is,
beautiful faces that you see here, these are all, which we have, earned. We have earned this. We have earned so many good friends. We have earned so many good, people,
it's a
kids,
family. It's a family.
youngsters, and everybody. That's
So,
that's the beauty of it.
yeah.
Truly.
I so appreciate your responses. That is amazing. You're the largest group that we're aware of studying the Law of One together. And the word family was coming up in my heart as you were, even before you said that word yourselves. You're building something very beautiful together. And it has been an absolute pleasure to be with you guys. You are a very lively group, let me say.
Thank you.
Love your energy.
Oh, we
Really
have
love you all.
have
Thank you.
amazing sessions on the group, but it's more about having fun and singing songs and supporting each other. We have a women's group
Yeah.
separately where everyone is supporting each other, and everything. And now I'm planning to start a children's channel. How I'm going to do it, I have no clue, but I'm definitely going to write a book.
Creator would do that. Creator would do that.
I know,
And
I
we
know.
have a family up there.
That's exactly why I've just announced it. I don't know what I'm going to do, but he'll handle it. So,
I want to say something.
Yeah.
I want to add something too. If she wouldn't start the YouTube channel, I would not even join. I'm here in Huntsville, Alabama.
Yeah.
So what happened? The awakening in my awakening was, I don't know
Can you
what's going
please
on.
Can you
Huh?
please put spotlight on Vaishali ji? I mean, I'll go like.
Actually, what happened? My awakening started last year, and something was coming in my mind, like you need to. You are not from this planet, something like that kind of message I was downloading in my mind. I was having some kind of emotional problems that time, and I was praying God. I'm also believe in in Indian cultures and Vedas and Sanskrit slokas. I love to do it. So I was praying God that day. And like within 3 days, the Miss Ginni ma'am's video pop up. So just like the law often choose me. And that day, I feel like a blessing. I was so thank you to her and thank you all. I would never have this opportunity, and I would not be able to be in this group actually. So
Yeah,
I'm just
and
totally
that is absolutely true. Even in most of my sessions, I have spoken about this thing that you don't choose law of one. It's law of one that chooses you. It somehow comes to you from somewhere, and
Yeah.
then you just go right back into it, and you're like, wow, what plethora of knowledge that you have, wisdom basically, good wisdom that you get from there. And we are very glad that we found this material, and we are very very thankful to you, Austin, you, Gary, and Jim, and Carla, Dawn, all of your team. We send our prayers to you, and we send our love and light to you. May you flourish, and may we all see each other in the next density where we would be together, and we may learn much more over there with you.
Is it okay to add one more thing? See that this is the blessing. I have been shared with Gary. Must read my email. It was about I have seen a dream. I mean vision in my meditation. We were all together, and the blessing of Creator. This vision is fulfilling today. So I would say Creator. So thank you so much, and thank you all so much for giving your prime time to us. And also that I would love to add only one more small thing. It's Sanskrit word. It's a beautiful sentence. It's Atithi Devo Bhava. So meaning is like the Atithi means guest is like a god. So we always learn something new from our guest. So which is we are. And thank you so much for being part of it, our group.
Yeah, and we sincerely respect your time and your efforts. We love you from the core of our hearts.
And we love you too. Thank you so much for being a student and studying Love One.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been wonderful. Just really, really appreciate. It's an honor to be here. And love to you all.
Thank you. It's
Thank
our
you, brothers and
honor
sisters.
that you agreed to
Like
be with
Ra
us.
says, Adonai, Adonai Vasu.
Aragas.
And we are like a Ginni ma'am, and we are like a Gary. We also like to do so much fun all the time in the group, singing and having so much love energy. And I believe this is like a master cycle. And my heart is also said everything's gonna happen positive always. Yes. And thank you so much.
Yes, we
He's
are
the
all being
only one
positive.
who's always making everyone sing every day.
So Jim, any closing note before we all move ahead?
Well, this has been a lot of fun, and it's been very inspiring as well. And I can feel your love, and I appreciate so much. We all appreciate what you're doing, studying the Law of One and sharing it with other people. This is the reason that it came to Earth and chose us all, and it's just the way it should be. And thank you for being such wonderful seekers. We appreciate
Thank
it, and
Thank you so much.
may the love of the One be with you all forevermore.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Love and lights